I actually started realizing how many vulnerabilities there were in the market and how many schools were just ran very mom and pop, right? Where they were not utilizing tech, they were not utilizing that really collective thinking. Most of it because it's very hierarchical. I didn't want to scale Academy that way. So my face is not up on the wall at Academy. So I want everything to be where the students, the staff, everybody feels like they are part of it, because one of my students could end up surpassing me at Academy in terms of knowledge, in terms of competition status. And so many schools are limited by their black belt is the top, and nobody goes above the guy at the top. You become the bottleneck. In jiu-jitsu mom and pop businesses, you're always doing what you saw around. It's like coming up in a family, right? You're going to do exactly what you saw at home. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? Whatever you saw at your academy coming up, that's what you're going to replicate. My business partner has his own IT business. And he's all about being paperless. He's all about being progressive in as far as like, how do we do things better? That like a Kaizen system of like a constant improvement in every aspect, right? So it's just like applying all these same principles to the jiu-jitsu business is like, oh man, we could disrupt super easy. It just was a leaning into that more and more and more.
Hector Beltran is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a mixed martial artist, and a bronze medalist in the Master Division at the 2022 IBJJF No-Gi World Championships. A coder, filmmaker, musician, endurance athlete, and entrepreneur, Hector is the co-founder of Academy Jiu-Jitsu in Downey, California. You can find Hector on social media at Hector O. Beltran and academyjj.com. You can find those links in the show notes. Past Choose the Hard Way guest Blake Kazemeier joins me today as a co-host. Blake and I have done many hard things and a few stupid things together, some of which we've discussed before on this podcast. Blake is a longtime friend and training partner, a copywriter and creative director whose video work has taken off on TikTok and Instagram. He's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. You can find Blake at Blake of Today on all social platforms. Family, presence, the transferability of resilience across disciplines or not, prioritizing scalability in work and life, the downsides of tradition, and the opportunities that lie therein, unlocking new ways of thinking and being, and the relationship between the fine arts and the physical arts are a few of the topics we explore in this conversation. If you are a human being, and I believe you are if you're listening to this podcast, please hit like, subscribe, hit 5 stars, and leave a review wherever you listen. It helps the show grow. Let's go big in 2023 and beyond. If you're new to the show, welcome. Choose the Hard Way is a podcast where guests share stories about how hard things build stronger humans who have more fun. I'm Andrew Vance, and I've spent more than 25 years telling and shaping the stories of the world's top performers, brands, and businesses. I've held executive and senior leadership roles at the social network for athletes Strava and the human performance company TRX, and my byline as a journalist has appeared in outlets including Rolling Stone, Outside Magazine, the Los Angeles Times, and more. Today, I advise and consult with businesses and nonprofits on high-impact storytelling strategies, and I coach leaders to become high-performance communicators. If you'd like to work with me, reach out on LinkedIn, DM me at Vance, or send an email to choosethehardway@gmail.com. You can find those links in the show notes. I'm also now considering sponsorship from mission-aligned brands to support this show in 2023 and beyond. If that's you, reach out. We're revamping the newsletter, so be sure to sign up at choosethehardway.com to get a monthly drop of insights and a look at what's ahead. If you'd like to suggest a guest or say hello, you can DM me at HardwayPod on social or send an email to choosethehardway@gmail.com. Okay, we're rolling. Blake was just telling a story, and if anyone follows Blake of Today on TikTok, on Instagram, you wouldn't even recognize him because he has his shirt on and he's not putting his calves in front of the camera. But hey, Blake, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for introducing me to Hector. Hector, really excited to have you here today. And before we get started, Blake and Hector, you're both in Southern California. I lived in Southern California for a long time. As Blake explained, that's in fact where we had our cute meet at a soup kitchen where we were both volunteering. I want to start out. I've never done this before. This is going to be really wild, but given that we have this common denominator of Southern California, I want to throw something out there, a bit of a challenge for you guys. And Hector, I'm going to let you go first. So here's the question. It's 3 p.m. on a Thursday.
Okay.
You've just picked up your rental car at the Burbank airport and you need to get to the Santa Monica Pier. What route do you take?
Oh, Jesus. Burbank?
Correct.
Okay, well, I don't know why you would fly into Burbank, but if suppose one did, okay? Suppose one did. I suppose you'd, Jesus. That's I never go out that way. I would hop on, get to the 10 some way, probably take the streets to the 10.
Do you want to go? You want to go 5 south to 110 to 10? Do you want to go 101, 405 to 10? Like, what are you thinking?
Probably. I mean, I'm most likely gonna go 101, 405 to the 10, and if not, I'd probably use Waze. I'd probably use Waze to avoid the freeways. 3 p.m. You're talking about 3 p.m., huh? That's a nightmare.
You guys like hard things, so that's why I'm giving you this challenge.
Yeah. Starting off with the really tough stuff to choose the hard way. Okay, I'm gonna say I'll take the as many streets as possible and try to avoid the zombie apocalypse of LA.
I'm more of a Thomas Guide person, but if you want to use technology, that's cool. I don't know if you guys are even old enough to remember the Thomas Guide.
I just follow the pigeons most times.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Blake, what have you got?
Yeah, probably the 5 to the 115, dude. That's the route. That's the route when when I had to rush Andy to the airport when he would oversleep his alarm back when we both were living in LA. It would be the 5 to the 115. The 115 is like a nice little, just goes basically as a beeline. But I would suck it up and kind of sit through the grind of the 5 going through downtown. That's my move.
Okay, I like that. Well, thank you for sharing those answers, Hector. Do you have more to add?
I've never flown into Burbank. That's why I say that. But it might be very nice. I don't want to offend all the Burbank people. It might be very nice.
Do you prefer LAX or Long Beach, Hector?
I just where I'm at, it just everything's Long Beach or LAX. So I just fly in and out of those places.
Long Beach is nice as well. When I was living in LA, Burbank was always the easiest point of ingress and egress. And now when I'm in California and need to travel within California, typically I'm seeing people between East Side, Hollywood, like Los Feliz, Silver Lake to Altadena. So I like to, it's the quickest point to get in and out. Man, it's so much simpler than LAX. And if you're not from Southern California and you're listening to this, you're probably wondering why we're talking about it. If you have lived in Southern California or have spent time there, you know what we're talking about. So guys, all 3 of us are dads. A question I wanted to ask now that we've talked a bit about navigation, let's talk about navigating life a little bit. One of the things that I find, all humans experience this, but I think when you're a parent, there's a component of it. When you wake up, you might have a plan for the day, and then something might happen where you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to shift. I know that both of you are high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners. I am not. You often hear like jiu-jitsu is life. And I'm really fascinated by when people do difficult things in one domain, does it actually transfer into other life situations? So if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner or you race bikes, can you apply that will to go forward and to adapt when, a child throws a tantrum, for example, at 4:30 in the morning? But I'm getting to a question here, which is, when did you have to adapt in an unexpected way in the day that's happened so far?
Yeah. So from the dad domain, right? It's you kind of struck a nerve there because I didn't sleep very much last night because of my my 3-year-old. So both my wife and my daughter's 8 years old. They both have COVID right now. So
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, it's okay. They're doing better. Thank you. But my son has been spending a lot more time with me, and that's not typically what our schedule's been. So throughout the night, he'll just start throwing a tantrum every like 2-3 hours because he typically spends a lot of time with mom and still sleeps with mom. So it's just been bananas trying to take care of this kid right now. The kid takes swings at me. He like has a vicious right, and he'll just try to just knock me out. I swear it's like little violent little creature. But I have to love him because he's my blood. No, he's amazing. But it's just like in the middle of the night, it's just like I almost missed my like I had an 8 o'clock meeting this morning. And I almost missed that just because I haven't been sleeping well this past week because of the situation. But yeah, I mean, everything I've done prior definitely prepares me for the next most difficult thing, right? If you actually look at everything I've done before becoming a father, it was a lot of difficult endeavors, a lot of difficult challenges, and I definitely think a lot of that prepared me for for the challenges that being a parent, will bring. I've been very fortunate that I have two healthy kids overall, and I have nowhere near the challenges that some people have. I always realize, especially because of the kind of work I do, I deal with a lot of young students teaching jujitsu and everything, that there's a big spectrum of needs and abilities and challenges that people have and parents have. So I'm very blessed. I don't have crazy challenges, and most of the crazy challenges that's my wife's department. So
I love that frame. But Hector, I've got to ask a follow-up question. So you got
Sure.
woken up in the middle of the night, there's a tantrum going on or something's happening. How did you feel at that moment, and how long did it take you to were you immediately like, yeah, I'm cool, this is fine? Or were you a bit surprised, and how did you adapt?
Yeah, I mean, it's babe, put on your mask. You're gonna have to come over here and handle this situation. I'm not I'm not built for what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? There's certain things where I just defer to my wife, and we have a system. I go, babe, our system, you take care of the kids. Cool. Crackhead breaks in the house, I got him. Or we could swap. What do you want to do? Deal? All right. So that's my chicken shit way of copying out of those situations. But definitely, I mean, there's certain things where I'll handle certain aspects of the parenthood, and thank God for my wife. She's a saint. She's a real saint.
All right. Thanks for sharing that, Hector. So let's bounce it over to Blake, who's got number 2 on the way. I've got 2 kids, 4 and 6-year-old. Hector, I can relate to what you just shared. And in partnerships, I think sometimes the best partnerships leverage the strengths of each partner, whatever they might be, versus trying to make everybody great at everything.
100%.
But we know that, I mean, we've seen Blake's abs on TikTok. We know that this guy is just a legend. So Blake, how do you handle it? What's happened in your day that you didn't expect would happen?
I want to answer that question, but real first, I want to say that before we had this interview lined up, I went and talked to Alberto Crane, who's my jiu-jitsu professor and has done a podcast with Hector. And I said, could you give me a good question to ask Hector that I might not think of, because you have a little bit more experience with him? And his question was just, like, how does Hector get it all done? And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good question. He does a lot of things, and he doesn't only get them done, but he's like a top performer. And then Alberto said, yeah, but he'll probably just give you that answer, that answer that, like, it's my wife. My wife does it all.
Jesus.
Nailed. You're busted,
What?
Hector.
Okay, nice job,
Alberto.
Alberto.
I said, Alberto, I was like, yeah, that's the answer we've been trained to give, man. We know that's the right answer.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a training to that, right? Like, are we domesticated husbands? Is that what it is? Have we been? No, and I don't at all, trust me, feel like obligated to give that, because I always honestly growing up, I swear I remember having this thought being in church or something like that, like a pastor, like, oh, everybody, like, welcome my beautiful wife, and like the guy's like wife would come on stage and she wasn't beautiful. And I'm like, what the, what are you looking at? Like it just be like, like this, like this like just response that's in your back pocket, right? And then like I was like, am I ever gonna become that guy that's just like, you know, always just like talking about his wife like this, and doing all this and giving her all this extra credit. And in this case, I'm not bullshitting at all. It's just I am so inadequate, to even answer correctly in a way that saves face the question of like, how was I the superhero in the middle of the night with my child, And I'm totally not, I'm totally not. But Alberto, yeah, we'll put one up on the board for Alberto.
Yeah, my situation, Hector, is exactly the same as yours. I have a 2.5-year-old, almost 3-year-old. He wakes up. He's been waking up for the past, I don't know, 2 weeks at right around 1 to between 1 and 2, and he's up from 1 until last night. He was up until almost 3, and my wife's pregnant, very pregnant, and so like there's this like, this similar sort of like, well, she, sometimes she takes care of these things, sometimes I take care of these things, but there's a lot of guilt being like, hey, she's already taking care of one of our kids in her stomach right now. Like I have to kind of step it up. Yeah, so dude, I was in my son's room, and we're trying to break some habits that he has. So my son also has a mean right hook these days, and we're trying to like, to regulate his emotions and to help him express those things well. But also like we know that like negotiating with a toddler in the middle of a tantrum, it's crazy, right? And so yeah, a lot of it is like just that kind of patience of riding out the storm of like, okay, like there's so many things I want to tell him right now, but he can't hear me. Like his brain is doing something completely different. And when that happens at 3 a.m, like, the first couple times you run into it in the middle of the night, you're like, it's hard to remind yourself of like, he's just a toddler, he doesn't understand, like all of that stuff. Yeah, it just takes reps. And then yeah, like today has just been the knock-on consequences. My wife is at a doctor's appointment right now. My stepdad is over here hanging out with my son. You can probably hear him screaming in the next room. And this morning was just a complete calamity. Even it's down to recording this podcast where like I jumped on hilariously. Andrew was in another podcast on this same link earlier, and I was trying to get ahead of the game and test all of my equipment, as you see, which it has failed already once in this call. And I hopped in the middle of Andrew interviewing somebody, and I just like looked at him, and it's like walking in on a stranger in the bathroom. Like, I'm so sorry. So yeah, it's been calamitous, but it just like a jiu-jitsu class, like you just got to charge through it. Eventually it's going to be over. and you'll survive.
That's what it is. That and low expectations. Low expectations.
Yes, low expectations.
Yeah, and that's one of the secrets to a happy life.
I can't resist. I mean, all I know when it comes to parenting is that I know nothing. I guess like maybe I'm quoting Operation Ivy there or something else. I don't know. All I know is that I don't know nothing. But Blake, I do have to ask, when Owen is throwing a tantrum, have you tried these stomp your feet and hit a pillow?
You mean giving him that feedback?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have a danger room for him.
Oh, a danger room.
Like a punching bag set up and his own space.
Wow. It's like level 4, man.
Well, like I want him to know that he can express those feelings. I just want to give him an appropriate space to do it. So yeah, similar, I think the stomp your feet, but I think stomp your feet and hit a pillow might be a lot better because I have to like transport him all the way to the danger room, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and even doing, it's like, no, I don't want to hit that punching bag that like, he calls it Mr. Penguin. I don't want to hit Mr. Penguin. And then it becomes like a fight about him hitting Mr. Penguin. I think stomp your feet and hit a pillow is just something you can do anywhere. I might have to steal that one from you.
Yeah, I've
never heard of that.
I may have borrowed it from Daniel Tiger, who I think Daniel Tiger is just a fountain of wisdom. I've learned so many things
Huh.
from Daniel Tiger that I've applied. One of my things in a professional setting is I've quoted Daniel Tiger many times because one of my favorite Daniel Tiger quotes is, if something seems bad, then turn it around and make something good.
And I'm just even trying to think about, how I could even apply that to my son when he's throwing a tantrum. It's just like, I guess, tiring him out, let him get it out of his system. I mean, I'm sure we all do that. We all do that. Some of our best work, some of our best focus has probably come out of the expression of doing something with anger or frustration. I know definitely. I mean, sometimes go ride a bike when you're really angry. Go train. Go into certain zones that's maybe dark, but at the end of it, it's like ah, So giving a version of that to kids, could be quite powerful. I'll send my wife an email about it.
When this conversation, Hector, is actually making me think about a question I wanted to ask you. And you have a lot of content out there, which is awesome. You've done a number of interviews, and in consuming that content, something that you shared was that at one point you started to teach yourself how to code, and you went deep
Mhm,
into this, like doing a number of different boot camps
mhm,
with coding.
mhm,
And whether we think about culture, we think about our own behavior, you think about family systems, one of the things that I think about is how a certain set of inputs yield certain outcomes, which
mhm.
that's part of what software engineering is about. And I'm curious, with what you learned from coding, did any of that knowledge change how you thought about other domains of your life or how you approach different problems?
Man, great question. Because I was actually having this conversation yesterday with my business partner, trying to. He's a brown belt in jujitsu and been doing jujitsu half the time. I've been doing jujitsu. I've been doing jujitsu over 15 years, and when I was expressing to him because he sent me this code that was at a coffee shop and said, if you could read this bit of code, then you get a free drink. And then I started looking at it, and then I said, oh, okay, it says parameter. And he said, you're such a nerd. And I said, man, I learned this in 3 months in a boot camp, how to code and how to do a couple different things from front end design and some databases. They taught you like full stack development, but I learned how to code in a couple of months, and that time revolutionized my life because I realized how much you could learn in a short amount of time because they made us code 70 hours a week. It was absurd. I almost got kicked out of this program for not coding enough because I want to train jujitsu. One day a week, I was like, yeah, I want to go train jujitsu. And he's like, no, you can't fucking do that. You got to code. And but I was like, if you approach jujitsu like that, you could learn, like, it would just completely revolutionize your life, right? Not everybody has, 3 months to go 70 hours a week into something, right? I get it, and not, I don't even think that's really healthy, but this this allowed me to realize how much I could learn, what my potential was, and it also how to dissect certain aspects of jujitsu or other endeavors, whatever it is that I'm trying to learn or accomplish. And not just that, also just the systems for approaching things. Like I created when we first opened up Academy, I created a Trello board and started, picking out different sprints. This is one idea. This is like, I stole these ideas from tech so that we could scale really fast. And that's even something that now I said, oh yeah, we need to reactivate. I said yes, sir. We need to reactivate our Trello board and start thinking in sprints again, and start having those stand-ups and start doing everything so that we could completely outperform and disrupt everybody again. Like that's always been the thing. I don't have a jujitsu school. I think about, like, I have this like startup tech company. I think more like that, where jujitsu is our service, but then we try to do everything in a very efficient manner.
Just for context, Hector, I
Mhm.
mean, I've been, doing jujitsu for almost a decade now. How, you know, in that time, jujitsu academies and the business of jujitsu has
Mhm.
accelerated quite a bit. But I would
Mhm.
still say that having this approach that you mentioned is pretty novel. Like I don't see a lot of academies um, having that sort of business savvy, and then also producing. A lot of academies they're either over indexed in one, right? It's either like great Pohada, like it's like really hard training, they produce champions, or they run
Mhm.
a really great business that has a very successful kids program and like everybody has really nice geese. Um, you know, I think your approach is really interesting, and I'm curious, like, what inspired you to one, like, tell me how common you think that level of business savvy is in the industry, like across all like maybe American jiu-jitsu, and then
Mhm.
also like why did you apply this, like what made you think to apply that level of business savvy to this industry?
Well, I actually started realizing how many vulnerabilities there were in the market and how many schools were just ran very mom and pop, right? Where they were not utilizing tech, they were not utilizing that really collective thinking. Pretty much most of it because it's very hierarchical, where it's everybody. You got the black dot at the top, and then everyone just kind of follows that guy's direction. And I didn't want to scale Academy that way. So my face is not up on the wall at Academy. No, there's no Helio Gracie on the wall. Nothing's hierarchical. I want everything to be where the students, the staff, everybody feels like they're part of it, right? They're not just they feel that way, but they are part of it, because one of my students could end up surpassing me at Academy in terms of knowledge, in terms of competition status, in terms of whatever they want to do. You could scale within Academy under the umbrella. And so many schools are limited by their black belt is the top, and nobody goes above the guy at the top. So it's you become the bottleneck. And that's one of the things that like you learn, like to eliminate, like when you're stuck in tech. How do you get unstuck? You reach out for resources. You do not want to be the bottleneck, right? Versus in jiu-jitsu mom and pop businesses, you're always doing what you saw around. It's like coming up in a family, right? You're going to do exactly what you saw at home. Most likely, you're the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? So if you see whatever you saw at your academy coming up, that's what you're going to replicate. Now, both me and my business partner has his own IT business, and he's all about being paperless. He's all about being uh, um, progressive in as far as like how do we do things better, that like kaizen system of like a constant improvement in every aspect, right? So it's just like applying all these same principles to the jiu-jitsu business is like, oh man, we could disrupt super easy. We could totally disrupt. And they're just like it just was a leaning into that more and more and more.
What was your sense of what you were building when you initially got into the business of having an academy? What was your intention and what did you want to build?
I never saw it being a lucrative business. I never saw it. I just wanted to be in a place where I felt comfortable, where I could help mold a culture of with principles that I always recommended to people where I was training, but they're always like, you don't like, what do you know? What do you know? Like you're not a black belt, or you're not a jiu-jitsu school owner. Like what do you know? And so many times that's what it's like, right? You go anywhere, maybe you go into a coffee shop, maybe you go into whatever business you go into, you go like, oh, you guys should maybe do this. And they would look at you like, no, thank you. We don't want your unsolicited advice. And I always had all these ideas, and I'm like, oh yeah, you guys should do this. And then I stopped doing that. I wouldn't like just I would just keep things to myself. And then it was like, okay, well, there's an opportunity to open up a school, and there's an opportunity to do this better. So that was just my goal, to give a better service. I always thought I was going to end up having another business, a different job. Like I didn't think I was going to be all in. Like this is what I do. I live, my family, my kids eat from the services that we provide with helping people with martial arts. And that's another thing. Like I don't want to just say, I'm not a jujitsu guy. I'm a martial artist. That's the whole thing. Like everything, right? Like whatever you say you are, you end up becoming the latest version of that. because a new version always comes out and it evolves. I'm able to evolve as a martial art, just like when I started jiu-jitsu looked a lot different than what it looks like right now, versus everybody's trying to cement what they do right now. I'm always thinking, how am I going to be on the cutting edge and part of the future as this thing evolves? So basically, but short answer, I just want to do it better than everyone else is doing it.
Hector, I have a couple of follow-up questions about this.
Sure.
So I'm big into systems level thinking. I'm big into grounding, decision making, business building, creative endeavors from first principles, which it sounds like that's the approach that you took. And it sounds like at the outset, you had a set, and over time, you had decided, okay, this is what I'm not seeing in the marketplace. This is what I believe to be an opportunity from a principles and systems level. And it also sounds like you had a set of anti-goals or things you knew that you did not want your academy or business to be. If you had to just share a handful of those things on the principles that you proactively wanted to implement, what were some of the things that you wanted to do differently than you saw other schools or businesses doing at that time?
Yeah. Completely wiped out bullshit warm-ups. We do not do bullshit. We do not do jumping jacks. We do not do shrimps. We do not do push-ups. We completely did away with all the shit that allows the black belt instructor to show up 15 minutes late with coffee in their hand and blue belts to run the class for free. That's bullshit. That is just convenient for the instructor, and it creates bad precedent because now all the higher belts are like, oh, we don't need to do this. And it's true, they don't need to do it, because practicing shrimps outside of an environment where you actually have to do the thing that helps you get out of bad position will help you practice for many, many, many years something outside of the environment that actually makes it work. So you've now been practicing shrimps wrong for 10 years. Congratulations, you suck at shrimps. Everything is shitty in the warm-ups because you're drilling it outside of a real pressure environment. You're not everything that is clutter and that didn't make sense. We're like, that's gone. We're moving that. That's one example. Classes start right on time. All my classes start pretty much right on the second. They start on time, they end on time. You have a hard in, hard out. You got a life. You have kids that you have to pick up. You got to do that at my school because classes end right on time. Everything's very professional. Everything's just ran like a good operating, like a well operating business. Like it's just all those things where it's just like people are doing this all over the place at a grand scale around planet Earth. They're just doing it the way this shit was ran, because it was ran many times not for profit when it first started. Like with martial arts, it's just like, we're running this out of a rec center, so fuck you, I'm a volunteer, I get it. And I once was coming up in a martial arts class, I won't disclose what. I was at a certain place training one of those cheap martial arts variations of something. A really good instructor, it was just subsidized, okay, through a government, through local city. And the instructor said, hey, I'm not charging you guys enough for you guys to be acting like this and not applying yourself. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, I would pay more for you not to say that. You could charge me more. I'm happy to pay more and not be chastised like in this group because you're unhappy because you're not driving the car you want to have to the place where you're volunteering your time very cheap. So it's just all these things. It's just the mindset of a lot of people approaching things wrong, and because they weren't being effective business operators, they always had a chip on their shoulder. No chips on their shoulder. None of my instructors, for matter of fact, another principle-based thing, none of my students on my school are allowed to clean the mats. They are not allowed to clean the mats. Whereas on the other side of that, a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, lots of martial arts schools, they go and see, I'm going to catch all this flack from jiu-jitsu school. Like, no, don't say it. Don't say it. I don't let them what? And you should listen. You should not let them clean the mats. But let me go down that real quick, because it's really stupid to put that on a new paying customer, a white belt typically, who doesn't need that kind of treatment. They just need a hard in, hard out. They need to feel like they're top priority guests. Okay, they need to feel comfortable. They don't need to work when they're already paying dues. So charge them a little bit extra, pay somebody else to clean the mats. What we did, I'll even give you the solution, what we did at my academy. I said, hey, check it out, Mr. Instructor. How about you're already here, pay you a couple extra dollars at the end of your class, you clean the mats on the classes where you're the last guy on the mat for that day. And they're like, fuck yeah. I'm like, everyone's happy. They're making more money because they're already here. They're happy because the mats are cleaned the right way. Nobody's getting worm stabbed. Everything's very precise. But maybe at the end of the day, it's economics. People don't want to pay. So we have a huge payroll. I have a team of about at least like 11 instructors. We have a ton of instructors, a ton of hours. We teach on some days 16, between our two locations, Downey 16 classes a day. So there's a lot of classes. There's a ton of classes. Okay, 60 over 60 classes a week, and there's a lot of cleaning of the mats, right? And none of the students have to do that. I will give one exception. If some of these punks, my students, blue belts, they hit me up, hey, open up on Sunday for an open mat. I'll say, all right, but you got to help me clean the mat. For open mats, non-serviceable hours where I'm not paying someone to clean the mat, I will take some help. That's my full disclosure on that. But it's all principle-based stuff. It's all logical. It makes sense, right? And I see Blake over there being like, God damn. He's like, preach.
It's incredible. I think these may sound like small things to people who aren't familiar with the jiu-jitsu community, right? But jiu-jitsu is a martial art that's rooted in tradition, and that tradition in America and in other countries is that idea that one person here has more knowledge and deserves more respect than everybody else, and we're paying them for their time, and kind of we're their humble, their servants. And in some people's lives, they love that relationship, right? There are some students that just love coming to the master and kissing the mat and all that stuff. That's a small niche. The broad majority of people, they want to learn this martial art. They want to have a great experience, and something as simple as no bullshit warm-ups. It sounds crazy, but it's like I'm personally a fan of bullshit warm-ups. I've done 10 years of them. I whatever, but I really like practical warm-ups as well. But the concept behind it that you say is like, hey, you're coming here to pay for the best level of instruction. I'm not going to give you, a student who's still on the path. Like, I'm not going to waste your time because I want to do something else for 15 minutes while you break a sweat before you get that 15 minutes of my knowledge that I'm going to give you this class. Like that, just conceptually, that is such a different approach from a jiu-jitsu academy, giving your students as much respect as you're asking them to give you in a way. That's huge. That's,
take this for example, metrics, right? You train 4 days out of the week. Your wife lets you train 4 days, 4 hours out of the week. Okay. Now, 4 of those hours, you have a bullshit 15-minute warm up. Okay. Now, you've only really trained 4 days for 45 minutes. Okay. At the end of the week, if I use all those 15 minutes correctly and actually taught seminar style where you get on the mat, I teach you technique, things, knowledge transfer that you didn't already know. I teach you in a manner like if you were having a private lesson and I transfer my knowledge to you. At the end of the week, you will have 1 extra hour of training. And you compound that week after week, after week, after week, after month, after year. Can't touch me.
Yeah. No, it makes so much sense. It's just it requires not only an energy shift, but a culture shift, right? Like it's a cultural approach, which is a big risk. Well, it's not a risk for you because it's going to work, but it's a risk maybe other academies feel because, like you said, they're not mirroring what they have seen culturally throughout their whole experience of jiu-jitsu in order to have success. Right. The other thing I want to mention that is interesting about your approach is like in tech, we have something, and this, and I work adjacent to tech. I'm not really in tech like Andrew was in tech and like his circle is, but you have something called like a founder CEO syndrome, right? Where the founder has been successful by having big, bold ideas and taking huge risks And all of the things that led them to be successful as a founder of a business actually start to work against them as the CEO of a business, right? Like not listening to other rational ideas, or not asking other people for input, or trusting their instincts when the data says something that's counterintuitive. And I think most people run academies from a founder CEO perspective, right? They've had a lot of success in jiu-jitsu. They've been maybe a high-level competitor, or they run an academy successfully, and then they hit their level, like they hit the ceiling, and they're like, well, this is it. This is how much I'm going to make. I'm going to have 100 students. I'm going to charge them $170 a month, and that's it. That's my cap. That's what I can do, because I'm not willing to think that maybe I'm doing this in a way that can be both better for my students and better for me economically. Like, it is, like, the fact, it's so hard to express how groundbreaking it is to, like, for people to, like you, to be looking at the business model instead of just looking at it as a cultural relic, if that makes sense.
Right.
So anyway, I just want to give that context to somebody outside, because it is, what you're talking about is really interesting.
So it's more horsepower is what it is. It's what it is. It's more horsepower. I get to give you a better experience. You'll scale to be a better practitioner faster, because we're using time more effectively. Time's our resource. Okay, so every minute, and why do classes start right on time? Every minute, if I have 30 people in a class and I waste 2 minutes, right? I just wasted an hour worth of time. Everybody's time together is valuable. You understand? So every minute times 30 people is 30 minutes. 2 minutes wasted bullshitting around, not being effective, is an hour wasted. So I times my minute. I actually have the formula. I used to use that at our other academy. We took a 1,200 square foot academy at our old location, at our first location, and people would probably think I'm lying. Honest to God, truth. Hand of God, we got up to 285 students at that location. 285 students out of a 1,200 square foot location, running 12 classes a day. Why? Because I said, okay, well, I have 635 square feet of mat space. Okay, so the way I can maximize that mat is by operating more hours and running classes right on time. Okay, good. So now my formula was serviceable mat hours times mat space. So then I ended up with a number that gave me more mat space than the schools that had a 5,000 square foot facility, because they were operating 3 primetime classes a day and then not servicing more hours. So I had more mat space than they did. So it's just about what are you doing? What are you doing with your resources? Time and space is a resource, right? So it's just, what do you do with it?
Yeah, I think in something that I'm thinking about right now that has come into sharper focus for me the past 4 years that I've been doing this podcast is the idea that people who achieve a level of high performance in any discipline, when people on the outside or who aspire to a higher level of performance in their own life or in their own profession, they often look at someone who's extremely high achieving and they say, I need to do it the way that person is doing it. And when people do that, for example, if someone were to say, I want to be like Elon Musk, I'm not sure who that person would be in the world right now, but there might be someone. To go try to do what someone else has done to achieve the success that they have done is generally not a great idea. And I think that that's actually counterintuitive to people, because, Hector, I think this is a really good example that over time, what you have done is you have observed a traditional model, you've found ways to disrupt it that you have found to be highly effective, and they're working for you right now. And someone listening to this might say, there's something that I can apply to what I'm doing. I would say the thing they could apply is a systems level approach to solving problems, and that they might actually think of something even better that they could add to the formula that you've developed. I think the mistake would be to say this is a static thing and I need to do the static thing. There might be something in the static thing, but there also might be something where someone has a unique idea that could improve it further. And I think that's what you have done, it sounds like.
And that's the idea. It's like, okay, this is good. And I just told this, we're constantly having this conversation as I go, okay, we could do better. And it's always that. It's how do we do better? We can do better. following up with our students, giving them what I call like putting hands on shoulders approach, do more like, how you doing? Like, is everything good? How's your training? Like that could make a world of difference for some people, you know? And it's really, and it's not that we don't want to do it. It's just like, you have so many things in your head between trying to teach and be effective. And then it's just like, oh yeah, that communication. I'm not just like jiu-jitsu robot or, you know, whatever, fill in the blank, whatever it is you provide, whatever service, whatever way, everybody at the end of the day. And one of the core principles I believe in, and I heard, I'm not sure if it was Mark Rubio say was, you help enough people get what they want and you could get yourself whatever you want. It was something along those lines. And I was like, oh yeah, I just have to help enough people. I just need to help enough people, and then I could feed my kids, feed my family, you know, and do what I want to do. Go on a mountain biking trip, like do all these things while like everything's like the school's running and everything. I just got when I'm there, and that's the thing, right? Like being a father, being a business owner, doing all this, wherever I'm at, how do I be 100% present to be 100% effective? And then scale that through my team, because your wife's the team, right? Everybody around you is the team. So how do we scale that? And how do we make it to where, okay, what do you need when I'm here? Okay, all right, give you everything that I have while I'm there. I guess like you brought up Elon Musk, right? How does Elon Musk do what he do? Wherever he's at, I'm sure he's 100% dialed in. That's the only way to do it. 100% focused, dialed in, be present, be there, and then you shift gears. That's like the thing, right? Like, I guess like, you know, to kind of, you know, the question that you asked Alberto Crane about me, Blake, is like, how do I do so much? And I don't feel like I'm doing nearly enough. I just told my wife the other day, laying in bed, I was sitting up, I couldn't sleep. And she's like, what's wrong? Why aren't you sleeping? Like, does not like you. And I'm just sitting up. I always do this. I always reflect at the end of the year. I go, I've done a lot, but I could have done more. I'm like, fuck. That hurts me. It like that I leave anything on the table. I could have competed more tournaments. I could have raced more races. I fucked up. I didn't sign up for the Tahoe 100 in time. They closed registration. They like, God, it's always something. We could have maybe scaled out to a different market. We could have done something better. You could always do more. You could always do better. You could always do more. So that's the idea.
The Tahoe 100 is just riding around in a giant dust cloud.
Yeah, you don't need to do it, dude.
You don't need to do that race.
Andy
it's a waste of time.
And I both done it, dude. It's okay, man.
I've done it. I've done it a couple of years. I've done it like at least like 3
do better.
4 years.
We're here to affirm that you can do better things with your time that are more challenging, that would bring you into a higher state of consciousness. But I feel you. I wanted to ask a question about that topic of presence. Again, this is one I've been thinking about a lot lately. People talk all the time about how the most precious resource you have is your time. I would say it's actually time times presence, because what most of us do, even when we have time with loved ones, with our children, with other people we care about, I know at least for me, I'm actually time traveling. I'm thinking about, shit, what's this thing coming in the future? Am I prepared? Do I have enough money? Is this strategy going to work out? Or traveling back in time to, should I have made a different decision or having regret or whatever? To actually be truly focused and present in the moment it's a high aspiration. It's a great aspiration, and it can be really difficult to achieve. And both of you guys, you know, you're practitioners of jiu-jitsu and you also are cyclists. I'm a cyclist as well. Part of what I love about having, you know, we'll call it a movement practice if we just want to abstract it away from the activities themselves, is that there's something about having that attunement with your body, especially when you're doing something that feels physically hard, that does bring you into the present moment, or at least that's what I feel. Mm-hmm. And it also can be seductive, and it can become its own addiction. And if you spend too much time chasing that and not cultivating that in other areas of your life, then you might have challenges with presence. How do you guys think about achieving presence, the way you do it through movement, and then how do you bring it into the rest of your life? Blake's got it figured out. We've seen his TikTok.
You got it figured out.
I'm going to keep going hard on the TikTok.
I have really bad ADHD. Actually, the H in ADHD is actually stands for Hector. So tough.
No, I
But
mean
go ahead, Blake.
this is something I struggle with. Like, this is you talking about it. Even Andrew, is like rubbing salt in a wound for me. It's something I tell people about, like the first few years of parenthood. Uh, the lessons that your kids teach you is they just demand a presence from you. So that's one thing about like having a screaming toddler in front of you. You can't think about anything else, or like having a screaming infant in your hands. It just demands such a presence from you that actually up until fatherhood, I really had only experienced, and it feels feel bad saying this to past employers, but like I don't think I had that same presence other than being on a bike or being, smashed by like a 250-pound black belt, where those are moments in your life where you have to be absolutely present because the moment demands it of you. Anecdotally, there are things I can tell you. I have a very vivid memory of that 250-pound black belt. And I often think about that moment. I think about the texture of their gi. I think about the amount of pressure they put on my body. And when I'm in a moment where I'm sort of disassociating, I tap into the presence that I needed in that moment, right? I think about like, wow, like all you had in that moment were like this really visceral, intense thing. How am I experiencing my present moment like that, right? So if I'm sitting in a meeting on a Zoom call and I'm tuning out, it's funny because it's like I'm also sort of disassociating having this memory, but I think about like, okay, think about the presence that moment demanded and trying to bring that into wherever I am. I'm not great at it. This is something I find to be really challenging, which is why I think I'm drawn to these sports, because they bring it out of me in a way that reminds me almost that I'm still capable of that. And I think that's a lot of why jiu-jitsu is so popular, particularly for men in their 30s who are living lives that are mostly checked out, who are just going through the motions at their job, who are just barely showing up for their families. Like, that's why it's such an appealing sport for these people, because it reminds them that they can be present in a way that they haven't forced themselves to be in a really long time. I think that's why it's really appealing for me a lot of times.
Hector, how about you?
Yeah, and see, presence is a thing that I think most creative type people struggle with, and it's always you got that little demon in your head, like, oh, think about this or think about that, and that's one thing I struggle with a lot with too, and my wife's always like, I'm talking to my wife, and then she does it like in an instant where she recognizes that like dead eye I give her, where I'm looking at her, but I'm looking through her. And she's like, oh, I just lost them. And she knows. And then I wonder, do other people recognize it? Because she calls me out on my bullshit. She calls me out when like I disappear, and I'll disappear on it in an instant. I'll just disappear. And like, and then she's like, oh, like, I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about that technique I'm gonna teach tonight, or that move. Like, it one thing about what I do is it requires so much creativity and so much expression. It requires all year round, like that random access memory, right? You're utilizing all your resources when you're thinking about the context of the move. You're putting yourself in a position that, I'm sure if you guys train jiu-jitsu, you know this. You sit there, you'll veg about a move or a technique or a thing that you're doing. To put yourself in that requires so much mental resources that you literally almost shut down. God forbid you're driving, but I know it happens driving too. Where you start thinking about technique, jujitsu, or the position you're in, and you're gone. And I'm just like, I struggle with that a lot, because my wife notices, my daughter notices me check out, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, besides that, there's also technology. There's also your phone in your hand, and I'm trying to mitigate that as much as possible. Like, my TikTok account for Academy that I was trying to grow, I'm trying to farm that out to other people to start running with that. I don't want to see it because the algorithm gets you. Like, they just like start showing you shit that's going to keep you on there, looking at it, distracting you, getting in that zone. Next thing you know, you've lost an hour to that. You lost another hour to Instagram. You lost another hour to YouTube. You lost another, all these different platforms got, man, Twitter, everything. You're on Facebook. All of it is using your resources, and then makes it worse and then that kills your creativity too. So it's all like, it's a difficult thing for being present, and that presence with trying to be effective from a father perspective, from a business perspective, from a friend perspective. Even fucking ordering at a restaurant when you're not present is takes more time than it needs to. Probably frustrates the hell out of waiters. But yeah, that's one of those places where if we're doing like self reflection, I would give myself like a 4. It's not a passing grade.
So Hector, you've described with your jujitsu, like your practice of jujitsu, with what you do with cycling, with what you've done with your business, you have this expansive way of thinking, and to move to new levels or to introduce new vectors of possibility. Do you make space in your life just to think about amplifying the possibility of what you can do, or to think big, or does stuff just kind of come to you in bits and pieces and you put it together over time?
Yeah, I definitely try to declutter. Like, I don't do coffee meetings with people. I don't do like the chit chats. Like, people hit me up for hey, can I pick your brain stuff? Like, I'm like, fuck you. I'm good. Like, I just take away all the clutter, because it's like, for me, like, even for instance, I don't give private lessons to anybody. I do not do private lessons because it's not scalable. What am I going to do? Get 5 lessons a week? So how's that going to move the needle? I need to focus on scaling something that helps a lot more people. I empower other people to help more people. So that's like the whole thing. Like today between our 2 locations, 15 to 16 classes will be taught. Like, I'm only, there's only, your time is finite. So there's only so many classes, so many people you could teach and still have energy for other people. So it's more about, for me, it's about freeing up time. The more I could free up time, the more I could free up that RAM. That's where I want to be. That's where now the vacuum will allow for more creative ideas or opportunities to take root. Because the most thing about it, you could have the most amazing business opportunity, like whatever opportunity pop up right in front of you, and then you might be like, you know what, but I don't have the time today. There goes that. So I'm free right now. I don't really, I don't have a whole lot of obligations. I I took away a lot of the things that like, I don't work for money, for instance. I refuse, principally, I refuse to work for money. I do not work for money. That's just something I don't do. I only work for equity. I only work for something that is scalable. I only work for things that I really believe in. I will volunteer my time. I'll do whatever it is. But when you start working for money, for instance, then it's just like, then you end up in a place where you're just, there's a cap, where it's like, even if you're a lawyer and you get paid like $500 a day, it's never enough. Whatever the money is, it's never enough. Whatever you get paid, it's never enough. Your living expenses, your everything just goes up. So it's like, one thing is just like, what do I really want to do? What do I want to leave myself freed up for? I want to leave myself up for the things I am passionate about, I believe in, and that being a dad is really important. So I don't work on Sundays. That's a principal thing I refuse. I grew up in a family that my parents work 7 days a week, and that was really tough. So I'm not gonna work Sundays. That's like my thing. That's my thing. So it's just certain things. Where's the line in the sand? What are you gonna do? What's important to you, and try to build your life around that. Yeah.
I mean, the idea.
Go ahead. Like,
I mean, it's a small thing, but like, not teaching privates, like giving that context. So most academy owners in any kind of gym, like, that's their bread and butter, right? That's where they're making their margins after they pay everybody at their academy, they teach their classes, and they're like, cool, now my fun money is these privates that I'm going to teach, right? Mm-hmm. And then it becomes this question of, it's it's just you're not a scalable resource. You're a finite resource. So how many privates can you teach? And that's your cap. And also, like, the idea that you don't teach privates also doesn't mean that you're competing with the other instructors at your academy who are your employees, right? So you're allowing them the opportunity to gain that relationship, to make that extra money, to help them build their business, while you're also freeing yourself up. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's a pretty kind of, revolutionary idea. And it also means that when you give somebody your time, you really mean it, because you're not charging them for it, right?
100%.
You could take privates all day and just put cash in your pocket, but as a lot of gym instructors do. But the idea that, like, when I think you explained it as the shoulder touch, like when you're giving somebody that time, you're not, they're not getting charged extra for that time. That's a sincere exchange that you're having with them, which makes it that much more powerful, which then promotes the culture that you're trying to create at your gym, which, then is a disruptive sort of culture in the broader, like, world of jiu-jitsu. That's a really cool small anecdote that has, like, a much bigger, I think it amplifies much bigger than just the thing itself.
So sorry, go ahead, Hector.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say there's a real thing to that, right? Because you cannot buy my time. You can't. Nobody could buy my time. My time is something I give where I think I'm gonna have the most impact, and where I think it's the most deserved, where I think it's the most helpful. So it's like when I give my time for the kids. So when I'm wherever I'm at, the parent that I'm talking to, whatever it is. The other day, 2 days ago, I spent 2 hours talking to parents just on the phone. Some stuff was going on, and I want to see how I could help them hash some things out. And I just give my time, But it's like when you're charging someone for time, right? Like I like what you actually hit it on the head, because I tell my black belt instructor, I say, hey, you know what? I don't give privates. You have free reign. You're the only black belt instructor really here giving private lessons. Have at it. I wish you make a ton of money and help a ton of people. And that's the thing. It really when you start really trying to focus on the private lesson model, it takes away from your ability to really focus. And my thing is that no matter how much money you have, if you're a member of my academy, you will get the best of me. You get the richest person at my school will get just as much as the most impoverished person at my school. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. I will give you my best, and all my instructors should be giving you their best, regardless of the extra money that you throw at them. That's just how it has to be.
And
so everyone gets that Rolls Royce Ashton Kutcher level treatment.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I'm making a joke, but
I just to put a pin on what Hector's saying, like last week, 2 weeks ago, he competed at the highest level that is available for him to compete at. Nogi World Champions, Master 2, Master 3?
Master 2.
Yeah. Competed at the highest level that is available for us to compete at in Nogi at black belt level, got a bronze medal after a full day of competition. A bronze medal is really freaking hard to get in a jiu-jitsu tournament at that scale. And that night you went and taught a class.
I already had it covered too. I still paid the instructor. I just showed up, and it's my duty to be there and give myself.
And like, you're not getting paid for that, dude. Like, that's because you care. And that's such a profound example of the principle that you're describing, in my opinion. That is such a cool thing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one thing, man, I lost in that semi-final match by advantages. If you know jiu-jitsu, advantages are like criteria. They're not even points. Someone didn't even score a point on me. I think all year, out of all my competition, to show you how tight things are at the black belt level, out of all my competitions this year, I have only lost matches to advantages or referee decisions. I'm not, that I recall, had one person score a point on me this whole year. It's just everything's like so close when you're dealing with high level black belts, people aren't making mistakes. Everything is you got to fight really hard for everything.
Guys, we haven't talked much or at all about art. And I know art is an interest of like that all three of us have. And I just feel like we need to dig in on it a little bit. So how does art fit into this whole equation?
Jesus Christ. Here we go. I'm a artist, martial artist. The way I like to think about myself, I started off most of my creative endeavors from like the artist perspective. I have a easel up here on the wall. I'm actually like I'm in my office, but it was like when I moved in here, it was like more like dedicated art room with like acrylics and all sorts of brushes over here and stuff like that. But I started off as like a growing up. I really like to draw, and I got into art classes in high school. And at a certain point, even submitted my art into a big art competition and won a summer scholarship program to Otis College of Art and Design in Westchester out by LAX, and that was a very, very, very important part of my life, and something I want to get back to, something I have not prioritized because it's this weird thing where jiu-jitsu occupies all the expressive creativity in my in my brain pretty much. But it's very important to be expressive, to be creative. And yeah, I noticed that with Blake too. Blake's like such a communicator. Like when you see his stories on Instagram, like your storytelling is phenomenal, dude. Your storytelling is like it is really inspiring to see because you take something so like you could take the most mundane story and turn it into this very colorful and textured, like you bring people through the experience with you, and and that's something that I just completely love. Art is very, very well. Being expressive is very, very, very important. It's one of the things, right, that really make like a first world society. It's like art distinguishes like all the most like important cultures in history. It's like that's one of the things, right, that defines it. It's art and interpretation of the era. So I'm an artist. That's the way I like to think about myself.
Hector, I really appreciate that, by the way. It's a huge compliment, and thank you so much. But I'm curious, like, okay, so with the time equation that you mentioned before, this is something that I know Andrew and I both struggle with. It's art is super important. It's a defining characteristic of who you are. It's not always monetizable. It doesn't always feed the equation and grow the business and stuff. So how do you make time and space in your life, if it's just to play music, if it's to make a sketch or whatever it is, to do that piece of art that's just kind of for the love of the game because you need to nourish that part of yourself? How do you make space for that?
Just blend it in with the business, blend it in with the lifestyle, blend it in. I picked up my acoustic guitar yesterday, walked around the backyard while I was spending time with the family, and just started strumming, annoying the neighbors, and just start squeeze it in wherever I can in my living room. I bought a Harbinger 8-channel mixer and a powered PA speaker, and it's set up for karaoke on the dime. Come over and we'll have the experience, and we'll play music. I bought a keyboard, and it's there. So I put everything around me. So everything. By the way, I was hoping this would come up, but we'll get
oh
there.
Yeah.
But basically, my life, I set it up to where you walk into my house. This is what you walk into the Beltrans. You walk in, we have instruments, we have the keyboard, we have some fun over here. The PA system, the guitar, the ukulele, it's all there. You cannot walk by your tools for being creative and expressive without feeling like an asshole, for not touching them. So it's like I set up my life, everything, so that it's like it's there. This is the workspace. This is the that's the whole thing, right? Like the what's your workstation, you know? So you come into your office or you come into whatever your domain is, and it should be set up so that you could get to work. You could do the thing. You could play a game with your kids. You could do whatever the principle is that you want to build your life around. You know, I haven't touched this since I moved in here, but I got like my like paints and all my stuff over here, like everything set up. What do I want to do? I just want to put that my garage, my drum sets in there, and my like all my bikes, my horde of bikes in there, and it's just everything is about efficiency. Everything's about building everything. That's the idea. That's the cast a vision. What do I want to do? How do I want to do it? I work 5 minutes. My academy is 5 minutes in this direction. My other academy is 5 minutes in that direction. Everything's efficient, taking out commutes, taking out all the shit that the bullshit warm up in life. You know, all the little things like I'm out the car, coffee's there, everything's like efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. You know, like that allows you to just have that extra hour that could make the difference to be creative. I mean, that being said, still, um, social media could eat up all your time as well too. Even being really productive, like you could video edit. Like I edit all my own videos for our media, and that takes up a lot of time. You know, so it's just you got to be very. I mean, I imagine the work you put into for this podcast. You know, people have no concept the work that goes into producing podcasts and every little thing. Everything when you make something look easy, it's the worst because then people think, oh, that was easy, you know, but they have no concept of the work that goes into it. So it's just about being efficient and just putting everything in a accessible manner so that I could play my guitars and have fun.
So you got first order access to everything. It's just there. It's ready to go. You make sure it's all queued up so that it's as simple as
I
possible.
want to keep giving you a tour. I almost picked up my computer. I want to give you a tour of the living room where I have my Wahoo kicker in front of the TV where I could watch.
Nice.
I could train and watch a movie with my kids. Like we're watching a Disney movie, we're watching whatever, and I'm like just cracking out a training session. You know, that's the whole thing. Everything's how do I two birds with one stone ideal. You know, everything is
Right.
like two birds with one stone, and we're money. Like everything that I could do, I'm doing it in that manner. That's the idea. Vacations are always around mountain biking or jiu-jitsu. You know.
Oh man.
Oh man, yes, you struck a nerve with that.
Guilty?
One
You guilty too, or what?
Andrew's dragged his wife out to the first year we did Unbound Gravel. First 2 years he did it. His wife was our support, so she was like our neutral support. So she's driving out into the middle of the plains in Emporia, Kansas, like holding water bottles, waiting for us to come by.
Man,
all day
so
long
awesome.
with no cell phone reception. So we've both put our families through quite a bit.
Got to spend a nice night in a like $50 hotel room with Blake and I as well, and get up at 4 a.m, which I'm sure was awesome while we were really nervous and about to go race for 6 hours.
Well, making her part of the process is important. Yeah. Making her part of the process, making like there's nothing. It's worse, I think, when I leave my wife at home. She's like, fuck. She'd rather be there doing something, being a part of it, and it changes the whole experience. You know, it's if you can. Sometimes more expensive, sometimes more logistics to it. It's sometimes you just can't. You know, but I think that there's a powerful component to that as well.
Hector, how does the bike fit into the overall? It's just blowing my mind that there's also bike racing going on in the mix of things that you're describing. I'm wondering if we're living in a simulation and there are two of you. So how does bike racing fit into everything, and how did you get into that?
So I used to like trail running. I got into trail running. I'll take you from the genesis. I like trail running. I was doing that, and then I would see these people whizzing by, and I was like, whoa, that's really cool, but seems dangerous. And And then I hurt my knees. I was trail running and I don't know what was happening. I couldn't run anymore. I could barely walk. I was every time I would go hiking, like after 3 miles, I was just my knees were shot. And I was like, well, maybe. And this was in like 2006 or 2000, yeah, like 2006. I looked into buying a bike. I got a really good deal on a Trek Fuel EX9. It was a good build. And then I just started riding bikes by myself. I didn't know anybody that rode bikes. I didn't know at all what I was doing. The seat was all the way down like a BMX bike. Like I had no concept of anything. And I was just going through the motions of just like, all right, I'll get out there. I'm having a blast. I'm eating crap every time I'm riding, but I'm having a lot of fun and I love being in nature. So I'm meeting some people and then they're like, "Oh, you ride? Yeah, I could tell." I was like, "Yeah, how could you tell?" You're like, "Oh, your legs are all scratched up." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," you're like, because I was always eating shit. I was always like scratched stuff on my arms and legs all the time. And I took that like saying like, if you're not leaving skin, you're not riding way too seriously. On the wrong bike. So I was just an idiot. And I started riding with some people. They introduced me to just like riding better trails, riding better. And then it always became like just like from writing, the community just kind of same with like jujitsu, whatever else you do, the community started presenting itself and started meeting different people that would encourage me to ride better places or get into different things. And then it wasn't until 2013 where I met a gentleman at a bike race I was doing on Catalina Island. His name Mark Addy, and met him on the boat ride over to the island, and super cool guy. We ended up just exchanging information, and then he started inviting me to do the Kenda Cup series up in Big Bear, and I started racing Big Bear that year. By the end of that year, I was the first year I think I did the Tahoe 100, and I was like, dude, I'm not prepared for any of this. All my rides are like max 12 miles, and that was like a 63-mile race in Tahoe, and just started always doing more and more, and then I got addicted, and then I was like, oh, how can I like be faster? So then I got a hardtail bike, and then I got like a Niner Air 9 RDO, and always just started getting more and more into it. And now I think I've been racing now about 8 years, and to bring it to where I'm at now, I primarily I race Cat 2, except for last season at the end of the season, I did one Rim Nordic race that's over by like Snow Valley in Southern California, and I raced Cat 1, and just a small little division, but I took first, and that was
Whoa.
like that was the day after I raced. Well, I don't know if you race or ride it, but the Tahoe, no, not the Tahoe, the Big Bear, the Tour de Big Bear, which is a 100-mile road ride, like starting off in the Big Bear Village, going down a Snow Valley, climbing back up, going around Obsidian, going back. Like it's a huge, massive day. 8 days on the bike, right? 8 days on the bike. The next day, I showed up to race this cross country racing, and I ended up signing up Cat 1 because I'm just like, why not? What's the worst that could happen? And my leg just woke up, and it was just like, and that's like one of the things, right? Like you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what you're capable of, and it's just like, all right, well, I guess I have a great base. I have tons of base right now, so I'm just like, so I start off the race, and then motherfucker just took off, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna chill. 1 minute of chilling, and I was like, fuck that. And then I started just chasing these guys, and it's just like, I guess some people are just wired this way, right? It's like, fuck that. And I just started giving chase and started racing. You just start getting into that racing mode, and it's just like, all right, well, let's go. And it was a good day, and good conditions, and yeah. So that was like my first ever, because I've never got even Cat 2 racing all these years. All these years, I've been racing Cat 2 for a very long time. I've never got a first place. I've never been top of the podium. It's fucking crazy. It's just there's so many sandbaggers, and I'm just gonna call it. You know what it is? These guys. I literally called out the organizer of the race. There's this one race last year at Temecula where the Cat 2 guys in my division were all in exact same course, exact same distance, exact same everything as the Cat 1 guys. They were doing the exact same laps, exact same everything. They were 2 minutes faster. The first to third guy, the third place guy in my Cat 2 division was faster by 2 minutes than the Cat 1 guy, than the first place Cat 1 guy.
It's an automatic upgrade.
It should be, but they don't. It should be.
I'll give the promoter a call. That's an automatic upgrade. That kind of sandbagging can't be tolerated. Community needs to enforce this.
They should. I talk to the guys and they go like, oh yeah, and it's like typically it's a different like it's like Cat 1 does a couple extra miles, so typically it's like it's hard to distinguish exactly what's going on, but lap for lap, everything same course, and that was one of those where I just said, you know what, I think it's easier to race Cat 1. and it is, I swear to God. There's the guys that are just never going to move from Cat 2, and whatever. I'm just done with it. Now I'm just gonna race Cat 1, and I don't care if I ever podium again. I'm just like done with third places. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now, and I'm just enjoying riding. I'm not built for it. I weigh 185 pounds. Now I finally have a race bike. I bought the Cannondale Scalpel last year. I'm all in. I'm on a rocket. It's just up to me whether I suck or not. And it just while I'm trying to train and do everything, I'm trying to cram in 8 to 9 hours a week, for on my Wahoo kicker, just so that I have the base to do it right, and then racing on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's incredible, Hector. The thing I'm thinking about right now is that I have my window of Zwift time, and I'm thinking about how am I going to squeeze it in today. So, because where I am, I'm in Maine, and there's snow on the ground outside, so that's like going to be my big opportunity to sweat today. So that's definitely on my mind too. So across the board,
you got to get it. You got to get after it. It's just like when you set up the routine, falling out of the routine is the devil. You just have to be like, all right, today I'm riding. This is the time I ride, and how long do you ride for? How long do you train for?
Usually about an hour.
Yeah, that's good. See, the problem is the thing that gets up in my head and screws me up the most when it's like endurance time of the season.
Right.
And then it's like, man, it's just like being on a trainer for 3 hours plus, like it's just, cause that's the way to do endurance. You got to have tons of base, and it's just like, it's just so grueling because there's the only way to do those big efforts. I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I'm not the expert here. I'm the white belt here.
I mean, I would say I'm never sitting on a trainer for 3 hours, and if I lived in Southern California, I don't know if I'd ever sit on a trainer. Having said that, if I had to, I would just split it up into small rides, and then I would not do more than an hour at a time throughout the day, probably. Because you get the same training effect. You're just getting the dose over 3 sessions versus 1 session. So I think that's what I would do, or I would find some way to get it in on the weekend. Maybe for you, maybe on Sunday.
One big day on the weekend.
Yeah. I'd probably do something like that. And then during the week, you could probably do your intensity. I mean, if you're Blake, you're just what's going now, Blake? You're getting on the Peloton. Like, what happens?
Dude, I don't ride for more than an hour on indoors. Never, dude. It just crushes my soul.
It does, right?
Yeah,
it does.
And there are people that do it, and there are people that are, obviously their program's built around that kind of stuff. I just can't, man. And I only ride if I'm riding for more than an hour. It's got to be outside. But yeah, I mean, nothing beats the efficiency of the trainer, right? When we're talking about your time by the hour, and on top of that, also in terms of getting fit, like nothing gets you fit like racing, which I haven't done in a couple of years now. So I should probably, I don't know that I'm the one to talk about how to train for bike races right now.
Oh, Blake, I think every ride is kind of a bike race for you, actually. Hector, have you ridden bikes with Blake?
No, not yet.
We need to do that too.
Yeah.
I might stand a chance with Hector there.
Blake, did you happen to catch my Instagram story earlier in the week with a video of Zwift?
I did. Yeah.
All right. Did you know that it was directed at you?
I 100%. If you didn't notice, I texted you immediately after because I was supposed to respond to a text, and then I watched your Instagram story, and I was like, oh shit, he's gonna know I watched the story. I gotta respond.
What was the video?
We're getting like deep inside baseball here. If anyone ever has the chance to ride with Blake, in fact, I know Blake's now doing a group ride a couple of times a week with over more than 100 people on it over in Griffith Park. Blake, I hope you share this with the group. Blake's big move is he likes to chew bubble gum while he rides, and he'll like blow bubbles on climbs.
Geez.
Yeah, while he's
moist.
Yeah, sure. Because Blake also, Hector, I don't know where you're at with hydration. Science supports stay hydrated and consume carbohydrates when you're riding a bike. And
bro science say.
Yeah. So, but Blake likes to stay dry and he likes to chew gum. Yeah. And his big move when he's passing people is to say, "Looking strong, bud." So like whoever he's riding.
Jesus. You're that guy? Oh my God. Here we go. See, that kind of shit will rile me up. Looking strong, bud. Looking strong, and that shit will keep playing through my head. That's the kind of shit that fucks with me so bad. Like you can even see me foaming at the mouth right now because I'm just like, oh, I'll turn like the littlest little thing, like the littlest little thing sometimes, and I'll just be like, fuck that guy. Like, I'm gonna get that guy. And it'll just be me and Blake, and I'll be like, hey dude, you're looking pretty strong right now too, bud. All right. It's just attack. Attack.
Man. You know, I like to be supportive of people, and sometimes that support is not received as support, you know?
Yeah. That's great. I appreciate your reframe. So anyway, Hector, I just took a video of myself on Zwift, and then I did a voiceover where my character was just saying, "Looking strong, bud," to everybody that passed me because I was going super slow. And I only put it up on Instagram because I knew that Blake consumes all content that's published on Instagram, and he would definitely see it. And I hope that I'm in Maine, he's in LA. I love Blake. I really miss getting to train with him, but I hope that it would make him laugh, and I think that I accomplished my mission.
Oh, sounds like it did.
Accomplished.
Yeah.
Do you say that when you're passing them, or do you say that when they're passing you?
So, the context that Andrew has heard that originally was me passing him.
Nice.
But I taught this guy everything he knows about riding a bike. I don't know what he's talking about.
And for many years, that never happened. And right now, it probably wouldn't happen. So
I'm gonna use that tactic this year. I'll use that.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
It's a good tactic. Hey, looking strong.
Yeah, I haven't raced in a while, but another tactic I like to use. And also, I just thought it would be more funny when I made the video. If I was riding like 100 watts, and I was just like, these people were flying by me on Zwift. So I just thought it would be a funny way to reach out to Blake and troll him a little bit. But the other thing I like to do, I haven't raced in a minute, but particularly in mountain bike races where you often will have like, you've got like the long climb and you've got a visual, right? Like you can see your competitor in front of you. So if somebody's dropped me and we're on a long climb, I'll just like start yelling like, woo, like whatever. Because if they hear you doing that, they're like, oh my God, because once they're past you, they think that they've got you, but you've got to find a way to just get inside their head. And like, if you can like plant that fear, uncertainty, and doubt, then you're imposing your will and eventually you will destroy them. Not that that's what bike racing is about, but it kind of is.
No, you know what? I've raced many years now, and one of my coaches did tell me one time something that did resonate. And I used to race very nice, and not that I'm being a dick, and most of this just is internal thought, right? And he said, those guys, fuck those guys. And I said, yeah, he's right. I'm not out there doing any favors. I'm like, your goal, you're like, if your goal is the podium, you're like, don't race dirty, don't do anything. But you don't need to be like, oh, sure, right this way. Go ahead. Here's the easy path. No, like your racing's racing. And, amateur even like it, man, if you're putting in 9 to 10 hours a week training on top of life, on top of everything, on top of the kids. We're talking about like, you're not, racing like expert or anything like that. You're in the dad field. You're in the like, I have like kids field and stuff like that, right? You're racing with other guys like you. It's still like, let's make this competitive. Let's make this competitive. I'm not, trying to choke you. I'm not trying to break your arm. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to finish before you. Let's do this clean. But like in my head, like I at a certain point had to flip that switch and to really like focus on being that competitor. I really compete. When I bring, that's like part of the like bringing the talk back to presence. I used to ride. When I first started racing, I used to ride. I didn't race. I was riding, and I realized that. And even some days you might not have it in you, and you go like, "Oh, this is a ride. I'm riding right now. I'm not racing." When you race, when you're putting everything on the line, when you're rationing water bottles, when you're rationing ounces, when you're rationing goo, when you're rationing everything, when you're rationing how hot you're going to come into turns, how much you're going to be on the brakes, how much not, what you're willing to risk, when everything like you're racing on a average, cat 2 race or whatever, that's an hour and a half effort where you can't make a mistake. You have to be so perfect. In jiu-jitsu, you just have to have a 5-minute perfect match. In racing, even cat 2 with these fucking guys, like hour and a half, you can't make a mistake. You can't have a mechanical, you can't have anything, and you train so hard. You got a $10,000+ bike. You burnt gas. You're pissing off your wife and kids because it's Sunday and shit. And they want to do something. They want to go Legoland. You're out here in the middle of fucking nowhere, and you don't come out there just so that, at least when you show your wife your bullshit ass medal, and shit, like you want to at least be like, hey, babe, kind of worth it, right? Like,
yeah,
it's there's something
Hector,
there,
Just do me a favor and never tell Andrew that bike racing is harder than jiu-jitsu. Just never do that again, please. But other than that, I'm totally with you.
I mean,
you're saying bike racing is harder than jiu-jitsu?
No, I'm saying never. Sorry, other way around. Never tell him that bike racing is harder than jiu-jitsu. Never let him know that.
Oh man, for real, right? Dude, I let people know this though. I'm sorry, but I let people know. Like I let all my I go like, dude, when you want to, when it hurts too much or like you can't in jiu-jitsu, the coward's way out is just like, oh, give the arm, give the back, you're done. You're done. In a fight, you want out, you get knocked out. You expose your face. There's ways to fall on your sword. There's ways to fall on your sword. When you're out on an endurance effort, if you quit, hey, here's the car gonna pick me up. Damn, I don't know how you ever recover from that. I don't know how you ever recover from that. Letting the support car take you back to wherever. Would you ever let that happen unless you're fucking utterly broken?
Yep. There's nowhere to hide.
Like, no, right?
No.
Like that's the thing. Like I thought about, because I've been in the middle of a like one of those Tahoe 100s. I'll never forget the one that broke me. The one that broke me. I was first lap in. The first 32 miles was 2 hours and like 30 minutes or something like that. Like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I was on pace to like break, like be sub 6 hours. And then my legs started cramping right as I crossed the middle point. And now the second lap, the second 32 miles or whatever, 31 and a half, it took me 4.5 hours of the worst pain I've ever been in. It just cramps, just bonked just done. My legs were just garbage. I would ride 1 mile and have to be in like that static shock where you feel like electricity, like locking up your legs and you're completely done. I was just way behind. I didn't feel right. My hydration wasn't right. That was the worst pain. I was like, like crying basically on my bike. I was crying. Like jiu-jitsu never made me cry. Like it'd just be like, all right, I'm done. I guess I get off the mat, go home. Dude, there's no comparison on an effort like that, So it's just, and those are always takeaways. Like I kind of like to tie things in with like the choose the hard way and kind of do do the things that are the most strenuous, the most difficult things in life, it always like, okay, this makes jujitsu so much easier. And my jujitsu competitors or friends or others, they would go like, oh, you're like, you don't get tired during training sessions because you're like, you ride bikes and you do all that shit, right? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Like that gives me that edge. That's an edge. That's an edge that I happily take with me. There's nothing else that I've done that's been that difficult, and it makes jujitsu, and from the physical performance perspective of the effort, feel so much easier. Because in jiu-jitsu, there's so many places where you can hang out. Even you start getting crushed, you start getting smothered, your heart rate starts dropping because you're not like fighting anymore. It's not like you're at like a sustained 170 plus like heart rate effort for an hour and a half. Like literally by the time your heart rate's climbing, by the time you reach a certain level, you're already going into kind of a safe position or holding position, stalling position. Like it's more like intermittent sprinting is what it is in jiu-jitsu matches. So it's not from that perspective, not from like, it's much difficult to have your arm broken, but like boulders hit hard as fuck too, though. You crash on your bike. Those are not fun days either. You crush at like I've never had this past season. I did a fall on my bike and get like scuffed up on the whole side of my body once, and that was like not going that fast. I think that was maybe like 15 miles an hour. I just made a mistake and scraped myself up. But like, have any of you guys ever wiped out going 30 miles plus?
Oh yeah.
Like, geez, that's violent as hell. Like, it's so violent,
Yeah.
So it's those things have made me tougher. They've made me a lot tougher.
Well, I think that before Blake talks, I think this is actually the perfect place to wrap things up. And I just wanted to mention that, Hector, I don't know if you've ever won a race or placed on the podium and been able to bring a box of Cliff Bars back to the family that you won as a result of your performance. But that's another really fantastic part of amateur bike racing. You can put in all of that effort, and sometimes you'll win a box of Cliff Bars.
Jesus. Oh my gosh. Really? I didn't know that was a thing.
That's never happened to you?
No.
Oh man.
These races I do, they at least give you like a little, they're prepared. At least they have a little thing to put around your neck.
Yeah.
Cliff Bars. Wow.
Yeah, that was like a big NorCal thing. I mean, Blake won.
Okay.
Blake won or did quite well in a number of single speed cyclocross races. I mean, this guy, I tell you, he brought so many Cliff Bars back.
Jesus.
Like he could have started his own distributorship probably.
Yeah, that's adorable. Nothing humbles you more than that. Than that. Like, all right, well, that's it then, huh? I risked it all literally for the biscuit. Huh? Risk it for the biscuit. Literally. That'd be like the name of this episode. Risk it for the biscuit.
Wow.
That's literally it. That's like what Blake did. Literally.
That's pretty good. Not bad. So Hector, if people want to learn more about you, check out your content, learn more about your academy, where should they go?
Sure. So my academy's Instagram is Academy JJ. My personal account is my full name, Hector O. Beltran. Just that. And as far as our website for Academy, it's academyjj.com. That's the best way to find out more about us.
Awesome. And Blake, people can find you at Blake of Today on all platforms. We have a couple of back episodes where Blake and I go deep on our rides at the Unbound 100, I believe in 2014 and 2015. And Hector, thanks so much for being here. Blake, thank you for introducing me to Hector. I've really had a lot of fun with this conversation today. And yeah, looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future. This has been awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait. Really appreciate being on the podcast. All right. Thank you, Blake, for connecting us. Been awesome.
For sure, guys. Take care.
Cool.
Thank you.
You got it.
This is Andrew Vance. Thank you for listening to Choose the Hard Way. If you enjoyed this episode and if you made it this far and got it all the way to the end, you probably did. There's never been a better time to share this show with a friend who has a growth mindset. So hit forward and send this to someone who you think would enjoy it. Wherever you listen, please subscribe, hit 5 stars, and leave a positive review. so more people can enjoy the inspiring and motivating stories that my guests share about hard things that they've done. Sign up for the newsletter at choosethehardway.com to get the story behind these stories, episode updates, and more. Choose the Hard Way is a Big Truck production. It's produced and edited by Anthony Palmer at Palm Tree Podco. Shout out to Emily Miles for digital support. The content for this show is created by me, Andrew Vance.